started out my journey in academics as just like any faculty member would do. You get your doctorate and you start teaching and um, start out as a assistant professor. My area of specialty is marketing, and I later on got into international business. So marketing and international business is what I would say my specialty areas are. And I started out as an assistant professor of marketing, believe it or not, at Texas A&M International University in Laredo, Texas, after I got my doctorate. And that was many years ago. And that journey led me to and my next stop was Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire, which is a campus of the University of Wisconsin system. And I went there because they were looking for somebody to lead their international area, international business. So I went there teaching international marketing, and then later became the director of international business programs. And I was teaching as well, but I was administrating in the area of growing international business programs. In fact, I did a lot of global international work for the university itself. I was faculty fellow for global learning, and I worked across the campus, not just in the College of Business, but arts and sciences, health, nursing, a variety of disciplines. I served the university and community. In the process of directing international business programs, I developed a center, a resource for businesses to become more globally competent. I engaged with the community through advisory boards, student internships abroad, faculty exchanges abroad, just to elevate our level of teaching and knowledge in international business. So if we needed to change the curriculum to internationalize, we need to educate faculty, we need to develop faculty, we also need to have experiences for students that are international. So that's my approach to anything grassroots, and then with the student emphasis in mind, that if anything that benefits students and make them better global citizens, make them ready for that global and intertwined economy. That's the workplace that they're going to be in, which changes constantly, and prepare them for jobs that don't exist today. So give them the tools, the skill sets, the ability to function in the real workplace. And as business students, this is really important. So that was my philosophy and goal in developing that student. And obviously developing a diverse student body as well, and giving them the opportunities to be successful. I was also advisor and mentoring the multicultural women's student body within the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire during my 15 years there. I always had a soft corner for women and people from minority backgrounds. The fact that they may not receive the same kind of mentorship that others may readily get. Mentorship and opportunities are not readily available and given to this demographic. And so I took it upon myself, and I intentionally engaged with mentoring women and people that don't have the demographic background that puts them in circles that give them those opportunities. So that led me to, I did a lot of administrative work that led me to engaging with the community, engaging across the university, chairing the presidential search for the university, and working in different realms. That led me to my first deanship at Saginaw Valley State University in Michigan, at Dean of the College of Business. And there, I was able to engage with the community again. A business school, I recognize, needs to engage with the community. But how do you benefit students? You benefit students by engaging with the community. And it's a win-win situation. They need people for internships and jobs, and we are providing that workplace-ready, qualified student with the current knowledge and skill sets, with the right disciplines, And so that's why I'm excited about the business school. I can be so much more external. It's not just, oh, the dean's running the curriculum or, all of those things. A business dean's typically external. You want the internal to run well, but you want to go and connect with the community and bring those resources to benefit your students, your faculty, your staff, your college, and raise the visibility and contribute to the university as a team and as a unit. So from there, I was able to go to my second deanship, which is at St. John Fisher College, a private university in upstate New York, in Rochester, New York, and spent 5 years there. It was a great experience. It was great to be, it's family and personal. So all the time I was moving, I was looking at, I have one daughter, and I was looking at what time or in her life is she transitioning from middle school to high school. That's when I made my move. And while I was in upstate New York, she graduated from high school. She's a sophomore in college now. She was a sophomore as of fall. She's a rising junior this fall. So but that led us to think about what next and where should we be. And my life's work really has been in, as I said, developing women, staff, people, young faculty within my unit, the faculty and administrators who want to move up the ranks in the business discipline, in my professional circles, in my accreditation body, all of those people that I chose to mentor. I coach people, I mentor people to realize their full potential and rise up to the ranks. I'm only today it's about 21% women who compose this arena of business deans. So a few years ago when I started, that number was 18%. So in 8 or 9 years, it went up to about 21%. So that's not very much. In 2022, the number of women deans in business schools, deans who are women, let's put it this way, not women deans. It's not a descriptor. It is, we are deans who happen to be women, is about 21% now. And if you think about women of color, that percentage even goes down much lower. And if you think about recent immigrant women like me, I'm a first generation immigrant, a woman, and that changes a lot. If you think about the demographic of the woman dean, they don't have nuclear families in the past. Like they're either empty nesters or they're divorced and their children are grown up. They're alone. They usually don't have their husband standing behind them, supporting them. But I broke that mold as well because when I became a dean, my daughter was starting middle school. And you had a young child in 6th grade, starting middle school, and your husband right behind you made their work and job flexible to follow you so you could pursue your dreams. So I credit a lot to my family to allow me to do what I'm doing. So I was also looking what's the right time to move them. Of course, moving is never easy for children, so they complain anyway. However, I decided that, and of course, they did it. And I think it made her a better person moving around. And when I was traveling internationally, she traveled with me, and I wanted to be a role model for my daughter to build that confidence and that you can do it. And I tell her, how would you know that you're not going to get it or if you don't ask? Oh, I'm afraid to ask my professor for a recommendation letter. And I was like, what is the worst you're going to get? Are you going to be upset if he says or he or she says no? Just ask, So I coach her a lot. She's also a young teenager that needs some confidence booster. And it didn't come automatically to me. I had to learn through experiences. I had to go through leadership training. I read and adopted some philosophies of leadership how you become successful. So then the coming to Texas Women's University is a huge, it's a, how do you call it? This is the place in all of my academic career that I feel I belong because it aligns with my values. It is very important to choose a place that aligns with your personal values, and the mission of the institution aligns with who you are. And in developing women and people of diverse backgrounds and people from minority backgrounds throughout my career, I feel like I can make a difference here in impacting this community. The percentage of diversity, how US News and World Report ranks us as one of the most diverse universities in the nation. That in itself is testament. It's not, we're not just saying, oh, we're a woman-focused university. It's not, it's co-ed now, but you also see visually the diversity that we have on campus when you see students walking on campus. And if you see the stats in our admissions ratings that we, in our admission stats, you'll see that we attract a diverse population. And that's the place I want to be. People who come from under-resourced schools, a large percentage of Pell Grants at Texas Women's University. So that's what attracted me. Now, I didn't have this tie me down of my daughter is in school, she's already in college, and my husband and I could go anywhere. But I would only go to a place that I really, really wanted to be there. And this is the place I wanted to be and make a difference. And I brought my experience as being a business dean who happens to be a woman at a public university, at a private university. And I wanted to bring those skill sets and contribute to this university, to this region, to the state of Texas. And if I can touch one person at any given time, it gives me so much gratification. And you only find out years later, by the way. My people that I've mentored in the field and they've become deans, they tell me when we gather on Zoom, or it's like, Rama, do you know that you are my first mentor? Do you have any idea why I'm a dean today? And I said, why am I hearing about this 8 years later? But that's how life is. You never find out the impact you've made until a decade later sometimes. And then you're like, really, I did that? And that gives you the motivation to continue doing what you're doing because it's impactful. When I was 14, I knew that I was going to get a terminal degree, a PhD in any field that I pursued. And I grew up in India, and you probably know some of the Asian countries, your parents want you to be an engineer or a doctor. That's it. No other field is good enough. So this affirmative action in India is based on caste. And so if you're of a higher caste, and even if you make a 95%, you may not get into the top colleges because 1.4 billion in population, and if the EEO system doesn't allow you to, access. So I didn't have access. I did not get into engineering school, even though I had a 95% overall average in my high school grades. So the next best thing to engineering, I didn't want to dissect and be biologist or no, that's not me. So the next best thing was to become a mathematician. So I got my BS degree in mathematics because my parents like engineering or doctor. If you're not an engineer, then go get mathematics, go become a mathematician. It's like, so I'm sitting in class in my undergraduate school, it's like my family, I come from a family of mathematicians. And, it's like my dad always taught me like how to remember numbers and license plates and phone numbers. And it's like I had all these tricks and tips. And so he taught me those things. And I was sitting in class, and the professor would write equations from like one side of the room to like, she would fill up like 3 boards. I went to a women's college, by the way. It's called Ethraj College for Women, which is a full circle. I'm now leading the business school at a women's university, 120-year-old women's university. So there's a great synergy and connection there. So that's where I got educated. I went to a women's college, and I sat there in class and I said, is this what I want to get a PhD in? And like just people teach, mundane numbers to people. And I said, no, my skill sets are elsewhere. I have some marketing skills. I'm an extrovert. I can be more impactful elsewhere than just like getting a PhD in mathematics. I already have the tools and I can take this elsewhere. So I decided to switch my field to MBA. By then, my parents had less influence on me, and I told them, MBA, I can come into our family business and I can manage it, So I tricked them into it, as I'm joking. But anyway, so we had a family-owned business, and I worked there for 2 years after my MBA, and did not like it at all. There was such a gender disparity in the type of business I was working on. It was industrial products. And in that during that time in India, it was not easy for a woman to lead a male-dominated business. It was manufacturing, factories, grit, that kind of thing. And I tried, and I wasn't happy. I wanted to be more of a chief marketing officer, marketing the product, and that kind of opportunity didn't exist, and the family business was not strong, and I didn't have any guidance, and so I said, I'm going for my PhD. I'm just like, I thought I'd take some time to work in the family business, and so I ended up coming to the US for my doctoral degree, and I was telling my professors, it's like, I want to be in industry and I want to do this and that. And I come with a mathematics quantitative background. I can do this. So my professor sat me down and said, do you want like an 80, 90-hour week and not have time for a family? And I think you'll be great in the classroom. And then eventually, if you want to move away from teaching and become more of an administrator, a business type that can engage with corporate, then you can think about it, but you start out as a faculty member. So he talked me into going into academics, but I would have never been happy just being a professor, because the impact I can make as a professor is over 100 students. The impact I can make as a dean of a college of business is over, 3,000, 5,000, maybe 10,000 students someday. So that led me to think about, even during my time of first job in Laredo, I was volunteering for things that I can do to help my dean and do those things so I can grow into an administrative role. So I progressively developed myself so I can make a bigger difference. I can make a larger impact on the next generation. When someone compliments you, I'm talking from a woman's perspective, when someone gives you a compliment that you've done a great job, just say thank you and move on. Because as a female, as a person from a minority background, you start to explain how your team has contributed and everyone worked together, and this is not me. And I've really worked hard. It has not come easy to me, and it does not come easy to me. And now when someone says, what a great job you've done, I say thank you. And I have this urge to give this long story of how it was successful, but I don't. So when someone compliments you and congratulates you on your work, just say thank you, because that's what they're expecting. Not one particular woman, but people who know me well know, please don't tell me I can't do it. So when someone says you can't do this, I'll prove them wrong. So that's been my motivation. So a lot of times in my life, from my parents to family to friends to, and never my husband. My husband is like, you can do more, So when people say I can't do it, you can't do something, I was always a rebel, so I would go and do it, and I would show them. So when I came to Texas Women's University, we've never had this, you can't do this. And I said, every challenge is an opportunity. This is my words every day. Every challenge is an opportunity. So don't tell me, please don't challenge me and say I can't do this or we can't do this, because we will do it together and we will get it done. But if you think about who inspires me a lot as a woman and a role model is Indira Nooyi, the former CEO of Pepsi. And I have a kind of an affinity to her because she came from a similar Indian background as me, and has a supportive husband, raised two children as CEO, two girls, two daughters, and to be a CEO of a Fortune 50, not just a Fortune 500, but a Fortune 50, and to be a first generation immigrant woman, have a family and a life. She inspired me, and I still follow her on LinkedIn and I read her philosophies. She's amazing, and I know she has her own stories and her own struggles, and I know it hasn't been easy for her. As people know, people probably look at me and say, "Oh, look how successful she is," but they don't know the struggles I've had, the biases I've had to face, how I've had to handle them, and how do you move on with a positive attitude? And yet, how do you, in spite of all the struggles and bad experiences, some of the unpleasant experiences, how do you make a positive difference in other people's lives? So when you can take the negativity and be negative, right? And instead, I chose to pay it forward. If I didn't get specifically any mentorship, I didn't get it, or I didn't have the opportunity, then I say, I need to be a mentor to change that. I need to change the world. I didn't have a mentor, so I need to change that and have a mentor. So I created my own board of advisors that mentor me now. It's like, well, I'm not going to say you're my mentor, you're my mentor. I went to these people who have influenced me in my life. The president of my former university 2 times ago at Saginaw Valley State University, for example, he's a great mentor. And there's a student affairs friend and colleague from a previous university. So I formed myself a board of advisors, and I made a circle of advisors that I can go to at any given time to ask for help, or ask for counsel, ask for their feedback on what should I do, because they're not connected to my situation, and I can freely talk to them, and they care about me to tell me candidly what they think. So the fact that I did not have a mentor didn't stop me from mentoring other people. So I want to pay it forward. But Indira Nooyi inspires me tremendously. My biggest achievement would relate to impacting students and giving back to the next generation. So when I'm able to do something impactful that will affect the future of students, for example, I'll give you an example here that what I was able to do in my first 9 months, and I wouldn't know, I've done this at previous universities too, but it's more impactful here. So there's a shortage of women in finance, and we are educating primarily women at Texas Women's University in the College of Business. And women in finance need the top-notch education, the latest and greatest tools and technologies to become successful and walk toe-to-toe with men on Wall Street. That's when we make a difference. There's a shortage in the entire industry of finance of women. Women just don't enter the finance field as much as men do, finance and investments. So I walked in here and I said, do we have Bloomberg technology? Do we have a Bloomberg lab to educate our finance students? And they said, no, yeah, we had 1 or 2 terminals before and it never worked. Bad idea to say that it never worked. Challenge, right? So I said, why it did not work, who was the champion, where were the terminals. I need a lab space. So I kept to facilities, and I kept, we have an internal Jane Nelson Institute for Women Leadership. So I talked to the chair, the head director of that, and even in my interview, I said, we don't have Bloomberg terminals, so how can we get that? And they said, if you write a grant to us, we'll be able to provide that. And lo and behold, by November of 2021, I had a lab space in my own building to put 12 terminals. I got funding to get 12 Bloomberg terminals, to put most of it in the Denton campus, one terminal in Dallas and one terminal in Houston, so those students could also access it. I have a plan to staff that lab with graduate assistants so people can use it after hours. My grant requires that I have an impact on women in the community. So the lab, there's one in the library that's accessible 24/7, or that's accessible a lot, and community can come there. And I want to make it accessible to women-owned businesses that don't have access to this data that we can purchase with a very expensive license and technology. And so I have that in the library accessible to women-owned businesses. So I think I've impacted a lot of stakeholders. The lab should be up and running by summer, fall of 2022. When a donor saw that we were doing that, they allocated their annual funding towards the lab. So we are now going to accessorize the lab with the TV and lab chairs and all of that. And they're going to come and visit. And so when they see the space, I think we're going to get more and more, and we're going to be able to name the lab with donor funding. But what I'm most excited about is that we've given our women in finance the opportunity to go directly from graduating at TWU to Wall Street with the Bloomberg technology. The part that I forgot to tell you is that everything I do, I want to impact students. Even when I did do research on Super Bowl advertising, which is Super Bowl itself is a male-dominated field. The people ask me all the time, and then when you do that, I always engage students to join me in my research, and I've impacted about a dozen students in the college students in my entire academic career, who every time they go to their job interview, they talk about their publications with me or the research they did, and people are, oh, Super Bowl, that's just like popular ads. No. There's a science behind it, and this is how we do it. And this research has taught me so much that it has prepared me for my job. So I think that's another point of pride, that I did that research, but I engaged students in that. So anyway, there is a lack of confidence among young women these days, and it starts very early. We need to start developing women in middle school. That's when they grow and develop a mind of their own. I'm very fortunate that I could preach to my daughter every day at home, and she saw me. When she was 2, she used to hold on to her toy phone, and she would be talking on the phone. It's like, I'm my mom and I'm busy and I'm talking to so and so and I'm doing, so she would emulate me since she was little, that my work and who I am. Not all young girls have a role model. So I think we need to start that mentorship program, that leadership mentality, building up those leadership skills among women, starting at middle school. I think it's grassroots efforts starting in the K through 12 system. High school is too late. We need to start at middle school and continue those opportunities. We as educators and colleges of business need to be an integral part of entrepreneurial development ventures like the YEA program, YEA program, where people start their own businesses and encourage more women to to boldly go where no woman has gone before, So we need to empower women at a very early age. We need to encourage them and build their confidence in quantitative subjects. Math leads to finance and accounting. You need to change their mentality from you cannot do this to yes, you can. And role models like, I wouldn't say just me, but role models from various aspects they need to see and speak with people like people that they want to become, leaders of businesses, CEOs, or, even college professors, or somebody who's holding even a small leadership role, that they can become that. And how did they get there? And was there, if their family was well resourced or not, So I would say that we need to help develop the yes you can attitude among young women very early. I would tell a young woman, you can be whatever you want to be, and society will continue to be what it is, right? So don't be bogged down by what society thinks of you, and don't be angry at anything. If you're angry, half the world doesn't know and the other half doesn't care. It only impacts you and it stops you from growing. So don't be angry. You can be whatever you want to be. Don't be bogged down of how society views you. People may not always see this because I'm a very straightforward person. I want to use 3 C's: caring, compassionate, and confident. Caring would, if you allowed me one word, I would say caring. They may or may not see me as an administrator being caring, but I care a lot about people. And that's what allows me to do my job well.